And I find it hilarious when you tell people who aren't awake to a lot of this stuff that most of our history is not what's in the history books. We've been lied to about everything, and they're like, "Well, why would they do that? That's ridiculous. They wouldn't lie to us about our history." Well, look what they're doing now with the cancel culture. I mean, our kids aren't going to know about the cartoons we watched because they offended people. You know, they are changing and rewriting our history now. They are canceling certain books that we are not allowed to read because they offend people. So it's happening before our very eyes. So people can't really question, oh, they wouldn't have changed our history or omitted things from our history books. Well, yeah, almost our entire history is fabricated or changed in some way. It's definitely not what you learned growing up in school. So, yeah, it's all happening before our eyes, and I just wish more people can just step back and realize what's happening right now. To close out, I don't know. It looks like we're going to have a pretty bleak future. I try to see the positive in everything. What do you think the solution is, I guess, for individuals? Because no one is basically going to come save us. We're not going to have a president, definitely, a politician, or a group of white hats. Underground QAnon or whatever, that's going to come save us either. So it's basically going to be up to us to do something. But I think that more people definitely need to wake up. We need to come together on a lot of these issues that are happening right now. And I think the only real answer is people taking to the streets and, marching in front of the Capitol building and making it known that they know this is bullshit. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that's happening. I think one thing you said, which I think is very true, is that there's many more of us than we think. And I'm sure you get contacted by people who listen to your show. I get contacted by people who listen to my show from all over the world. And we know that they're out there. The problem is, and you saw it during the height of the lockdown, where anytime I'd go to like get takeout, this is when like restaurant, you can even eat in restaurants, you're in a line outside. And I remember talking to people and I'd be like, hey, this is kind of bullshit, right? This doesn't make any sense. And I would like have these small just conversations with people, and I'm like, let me just start planting the seed. And then it went from like planting the seed to like, oh wait, I don't have to plant the seed. This person's thinking the same thing I'm thinking, but they just feel like they're crazy because they think everybody else is thinking the opposite thing. So it just takes somebody to break the ice and be like, no, 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 I see it too. Like, this doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. There's no logic in this. There's no logic in that. So I think there's a lot of people out there that if you actually sat down with them and you just start talking about what's going on and all the evidence that we've been lied to and all the things that make no sense, because there's so many. I mean, I know people who are completely brainwashed by the propaganda, and even they will admit like, yeah, that doesn't, there's no logic in that. Like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, I got to wear a mask to the bathroom, and then once I sit down to my table I'm fine. Or like in Massachusetts where I live, we had a curfew. Like randomly he would just start adding curfews. Like he got rid of the curfew, then he would add a curfew. Like no scientific evidence that it was helping anything, just hurting small businesses by having to kick out customers prior to 9:30. But then we had a curfew at 9:30. I remember being out with a couple of friends and I'm like, oh shit, it's almost 9:30. We got to hurry because Corona's coming. It's like, it was so, we would laugh about it. And it was just so ridiculous. So I think so many people knew that it wasn't about, it wasn't about the virus anymore. It was about control. And, you see it with just the mask compared to a face shield. I mean, if you go to my gym and you're not wearing a mask, you'll get in trouble. But if I wear a face shield, which doesn't stop anything from spreading because it's open on the bottom, it's completely okay. So it wasn't about science; it was about compliance, and that's exactly what it is. So my point is, and I'm sorry because I go on these long tangents from time to time, and
That's cool.
my point is that without a doubt, I think there's many more of us than ever, and I think many of us have been exposed to topics that they wouldn't have entertained prior to 2020. So I think a lot of people, if I was talking to them about vaccines and coming at it from a skeptical perspective, a lot of people would dismiss that and just be like, nah, you're crazy. The science settled, blah, blah, blah. If I brought up Bill Gates, who just got a divorce, by the way. Even Melinda wouldn't deal with this. Did you hear this? That they got divorced?
No, I didn't hear that.
They literally just announced it yesterday.
Oh,
It was
wow.
crazy, which is nuts because I'm so intrigued with like I normally don't give a shit about these type of stories, but I'm like, because they were such a great evil duo that
Right.
I'm like it was like a to me it was like how I mean they complement each other. They were both horrendous. And I'm like, why, so it also makes me think like, and again, this is just speculation, but I got curious with like, okay, did he even get so evil that she's like, no, I'm out, like you're going too far? Like, I don't know. I mean, you figured by the time the divorce happens and becomes public, there was a lot of like trying to keep it together happening, you know what I mean? Like that's how divorces work. By the time it's public that we're splitting, it's like this was a ongoing issue for a long time, and you try to keep it together, especially when you have kids and stuff like that. You try to keep it together, so for them to and then never mind all the business aspects of it. I mean, look at Bill and Hillary. I mean, they don't hook up anymore. They're it's a business relationship. They just meet up at for interviews, and then they go their separate ways. So it's for you figure like for them to actually split up, maybe there's more to the story. I don't know. It's speculation, but it just seems like maybe there's some internal fighting on, or maybe she's even worse than he is. Maybe he's the one who's like, Melinda, no, that's going too far. So who knows?
Yeah.
It could be, yeah. So who knows? But yeah, so I think that there are some positives. I think people started podcasts in 2020 who wouldn't have normally started podcasts. There's people who listen to podcasts and went down some rabbit holes who wouldn't normally do it. I had people sending me. I remember when the pandemic documentary with Dr. Judy Mikovits and was the first part of it with her was going around. People were sending it to me who I thought wouldn't even be intrigued with anything like this, and they're like, "Oh, look what I found! Have you seen this?" So to me, it was there's some positive things. Bill Gates did a pretty good job with PR with making everybody think he's just a good guy who wants to help people. But after 2020, I think a lot of people are questioning his motives. And I mean, just even that show, The Rising.
Yes, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on like the Hill YouTube channel. It's all right. They do a pretty good job. Obviously, it's pretty mainstream, so you're not going to get like real deep down the rabbit hole like you do with your show or my show. But just recently, and this is the thing, is it's starting to become more and more acceptable to talk about these things publicly, because I think it's become more and more obvious. But they did a segment about how Bill Gates didn't want the big pharmaceutical companies to let go of their patents, because basically the argument was like, hey, if they let go of these patents, there's all these other labs all over the world that have openly said we can help produce more vaccines cheaper. We can help push more vaccines out to the market at a cheaper cost for some of these countries, all this stuff. So even from the pro-vaccine perspective, they're like, oh yeah, this is a good thing. And Bill Gates was questioned about it, and he's like, oh no, I don't think it's a good thing. No. The pharmaceutical companies should keep the patents and blah blah blah. And so it's like it's become so obvious that even the pro-vaccine people are like, okay, something shady is going on here, because he if he really cared about just helping people, why wouldn't he let these other labs, these other scientists produce the vaccines? So it's, I think, to make well, I can't make a this long answer short, but to try to shorten it, I think there are some positives. Rokfin exists, and the popularity of it grows because of 2020. People know of Odyssey and Float and BitChute a little bit more because of 2020 and all that censorship. Parlor and all these other alternatives are growing with popularity because of 2020 and censorship. So I think there are some things. For a long time, I was saying that like all these issues that we knew were a big deal and at some point was going to have a serious effect on our lives. While we were talking about these issues, a lot of people neglected them because it didn't affect their everyday life. And now we've gone to a point where it has affected your everyday life. It's affected your ability to go to work. It's affected your ability to go out to eat with your friends and family. It's affected your ability to just not wear a face diaper everywhere you go, and let your kids breathe oxygen in schools instead of carbon dioxide. Like it's affected all that. So people are much more tuned into what's going on because it's affected them. I used to say all the time, I'm like, oh, you might not care about politics, but politics cares about you because decisions they make are affecting your everyday life. And um, I think this is the same thing. Like it's gotten to the point where like you didn't care about these issues because it didn't affect you, but guess what? Now these issues are affecting you. So people are tuned in, and so I hope all these people that consciously have been are becoming more aware of what's going on in the world. They all have a positive effect on hopefully eventually fighting back.
Yeah, I hope so. Um, like you said, we are seeing, rise of great platforms like Rokfin and Odyssey and things like that. And I've had, a lot of family members come around and wake up to a lot of this stuff and are sending me messages now like, what's happening, what's going on with this, and sending me information. So it is encouraging to see. I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing, bringing the information to the people. Ricky, I want to thank you so much for coming on. That was fantastic information to be shared. Before you head out, let everybody know all the platforms that you can find the Ripple Effect. You mentioned Rokfin. You are on there as well, right?
Yep. I'm on Rokfin. So you can go to rokfin.com/ripple effect. You can go to rippleeffectpodcast.com. That has all the links to all the places I'm at. But any podcast app, I'm available on Spotify, iTunes, all those places. And then I'm also available on a lot of video platforms like BitChute, Odyssey, Rokfin. And for the time being, most of my shows are still available on YouTube. I've had the Kevin Sorbo show pulled off YouTube, and then the Australian chef Pete Evans, that episode pulled off YouTube, which is weird because Mickey Willis is still on there, Del Big Tree still on there. My interview with Red Pill 78, who's been banned off YouTube, and my interview with Titus Frost. So it's weird. I don't know how they pick and choose what to
Yeah, I don't
remove.
know. I'm under a warning right now, so I'm just not even going to risk posting anything that goes against any kind of narrative. I'm just going to stick to the woo-woo stuff on on YouTube for now. They don't tend to mess with the woo-woo yet.
Yeah, and just I mean, a couple people like my good friend Richard Gros from tragedyandhope.com, and also Grand Theft World, who's also on Rockfin. He just started doing clips on YouTube, and then just
That's what I
that.
do. I do the clips of my Rockfin, post them on YouTube, and try and get everybody's ass over to Rockfin because we got they got great free content there as well if you don't want to pay.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like if people listening, like just create a free account. If you don't get charged for anything. Create a free account. You get to experience everybody's free content, which just about everybody has free content. So, and then if you like it, if you like the platform, if you like the way it looks, then go, do a premium account and support everybody. And the
It's
nice thing is
definitely worth it.
yeah, and you're supporting everybody. And the cool thing, like I told Martin, I know that there's like a approval process for Rockfin, and I've had some content creators like, hey, I didn't get approved or whatever, this and that, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, I kind of get it. I kind of get like this idea of like you kind of want the best of the best because
Yeah.
one of the things I do like about Rockfin is that when I go to my Rockfin feed, it's all great stuff. Like there's no like shitty stuff that I got to filter out,
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's almost like when you have cable and you have like 6,000 channels, but like they all suck and there's only like 5 of them that you watch and you have to go through all the other shitty ones. Like it's kind of like that. It's like you're removing all that extra nonsense and you get only the stuff that you like and stuff that is interesting. So, it's just the best of the best people and researchers and people from both sides too. The nice thing about Rockfin, it's they don't have a political view. They don't have any ideology they're pushing on you. They have people from the left like Jimmy Dore and Abby Martin, and they have people from
Right.
the right. So it's a little bit of everything. So whatever your ideology is or your perspective is, you can find somebody you like on there.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, Ricky, thank you again for coming on, and I'd love to talk to you again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Keep up the great work, Chris, and I'm sure I'll probably see you on a future Unions Unwanted.
Oh, I'd love to, of course.
Thanks,
Um,
Chris.
all right. Well, until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening, and we'll see you soon. We got another show coming up in a couple hours.